Huh?
Little Texas State Bobcats, you know.
Are you trying to manifest something, Jeff?
Thing called Manifest Destiny,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, have you guys ever
I'll give
had
my full take once we get into the win totals.
have you guys had any of these like poppy soda drinks? You
No,
seen these?
I don't drink soda.
Well, this is a healthy probiotic soda.
Yeah, that's what they.
Poppy, Olipop.
Celsius is also claims to be healthy too.
No, I'm over them, dude. I had a good one yesterday called Aspire Energy. It's really good, really healthy. Like only 80 milligrams of caffeine. I'm trying to cut down a little bit, but yeah, they're very good. By the way, is what I was getting at. The Poppy or Olipop. I think this one's a Poppy, the watermelon flavor. Pretty good. Oh,
I like it. We need
Poppy or Olipop.
we need a drink sponsor, title sponsor for the show is what we need.
buddy, I'm gonna make an announcement. Like
Jackson Perry says big fan of Poppy.
See, I'm telling you, they're good, man. And here's the deal: like, I'm like at nighttime during the week, like when I'm craving something sweet or just something like a Diet Coke, I have one of these guys, and it's like, it's got like I think I don't know if they're 15 or 25 calories, something like that. They're really good though.
Yeah, I just hit the Pellegrino. It's mineral water. Gives me the fizz.
Nah, dude.
Especially
Dude,
you go Pellegrino, tequila,
tequila, a little
a little
lime.
bit of lime.
Yeah.
I mean, you put that in front of me right now, I'll tear it up live. It's good stuff.
I was gonna say something I forgot. I made some freaking homemade shrimp po' boys over the weekend.
I saw that
Bro.
picture.
That was fire, dude.
I don't know if Taffer would approve, but it looked pretty good.
Or Taffer wouldn't have approved because it wouldn't have been grilled a table in less than 5 minutes. It would have taken too long for Taffer. But no, it was pretty good stuff, man. My problem is like so I have like I mean, I don't cook often, but I cook for, holidays. Anytime we have people over, like I'll cook something up or whatever. And then I usually just get on the grill, something easy. But like I have this cookbook thing where like I'm supposed to write down, but I don't ever like measure stuff. You know what I mean? So like I can't write a recipe down because I just like look at it. I don't know how long it stays on the grill. It looks about right, flip it. Looks about right, take it off. But I do tend to. My wife likes like steak and stuff, medium to medium well, which is a big. I like refuse to do it. So,
I'm a medium steak guy.
Medium
rare.
Medium rare, yeah.
Here's the deal: if you smoke them first, though, you can have them like medium well, and they're still real tender. Smoke them about 45 minutes to an hour, and about 225.
I'm on a gas grill, man.
Crank
I just, I don't.
You. Step your game up. Vince Van Horn, what's up, brother? He's in the chat.
What's up,
ball
dog?
as well, my friend.
I got a lot to talk about aside from Group of 5 football today, guys. Hope you're okay with that.
There's a lot going on. It's gonna be a long show.
Up 2-0.
It's gonna be a long show.
I was say it's gonna be the Florida Panthers. We're gonna have our NHL talk here for
Like,
the first couple of minutes.
Who you got, Vince? Who you got? You said just hired a Group of 5 former linebacker on our staff from ODU.
Bro, that's something we got to talk about too. Jason Henderson is still at ODU.
Wait, what?
I'm looking through like these rosters and prepping for stuff. I swear, like we got guys that have been veterans since we started the Group of 5 guys, and they're still on the roster. And I'm like, how are they still returning? But yeah, dude, he's like a
red shirt.
I mean, he must be
medical red shirt
and
COVID.
Yeah, he gets 7 years now. And there's some guys. What's that guy that? I think he's a 9th year tight end somewhere. I saw. Yeah. Just absolutely. I mean.
Jackson, I did see that. He said, anyone see Liberty get that 4-star commit this week?
I also saw they made some more upgrades to their already elite facilities.
Isn't that something?
Well, you saw the tweet. There was a lot of subliminal messaging behind that tweet because it's amazing. It's amazing. The programs I know we're on air, but we should save this for the show probably. But the programs that are already ahead of everyone else continuously upgrade because guess what? They stay ahead. The teams that are already behind, they just sit there. So then when they do upgrade, they're still behind. It is a baffling concept that some have figured it out.
Yep.
And some have not figured it out.
You got to keep moving. What is it? Is it like if you're not moving, you're dying or something? There's like a saying. I can't remember what it is.
Probably.
But it's true. If you get complacent and stay stagnant, like you're gonna die. Like you gotta keep moving forward.
Because that's how winning is done.
That's how winning is done.
They say that like even from a physical standpoint, like the reason old people like get out of shape is because they stop. Mm-hmm. They don't stop moving because they get old. They stop moving and then they get old and start getting sick and injured and stuff. But if you think about it, like I get that part of it, but life happens, so you have more stuff on your plate, so you can't do all the things you used to do. But it's very interesting stuff, guys.
Rule number 76, Sprouse: no excuses, play like a champion.
Good one.
That's it. Wedding Crashers. Love that movie. You ready to kick this thing off or what?
Yeah, I'm ready, brother. You just tell me when to go.
Take a little sip of your poppy there.
Fire, dude. On a hot summer day, I'm telling you. Especially after replacing an air conditioner. Anyway, we ready?
Hit it.
Good evening, happy Wednesday, and welcome into the world's greatest Group of Five football podcast ever. This is the Group of Five Guys. We are the Group of Five Guys. If you're new to the show, if you're new to the program, our mission is to be the voice for the Group of Five football programs, voice that the mainstream sports media just absolutely refuses to be. We need everybody's help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social platforms at Group of Five Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your family and friends all about us. Leave a rating, leave a review, hit the like button, hit the share button. Any click or eyeballs will help us grow the brand. On this show, a couple announcements to make. We're going to talk about Army-Navy sharing a game day with the Camellia Bowl and another bowl game. Interesting there. We're going to talk about the win totals that have come out. We're going to talk who's too high, who's too low, who's going to have the toughest time getting there. Then we're going to look a little bit into the schedule release, talk about who's got the toughest schedules. Probably get into plenty more. Hope you enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy, did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible. That's the wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of Five.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of Five programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of Five because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
Hey, before we get going, couple announcements to make. Number one, as always, guys, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, Major League Baseball, WNBA, all the above. Makes it more fun. If you got a little coin on the line, make sure you download the Prize Picks app. Use our code GOFG. They will match your first-time deposit up to $100. A lot of fun. Player props, over-unders, point totals, rebounds, all of that stuff. It's got every sport. Even got esports on there if you're into that kind of thing. But check out Prize Picks. Use our code GOFG. Big announcement. We announced it on the socials. We have not talked about it yet on the show. New Group of Five guys partnership with the Varsity app, which is Learfield Sports Podcast Network. So if you're familiar with college football, you probably have heard of Learfield, and you've probably heard of the Varsity app. So make sure you go on the Varsity app. There's a bunch of good podcasts on there, school-specific stuff. But the Group of Five guys will now be played on that app. So check it out, download it, the Varsity app. I don't know, to be quite honest, I don't know if this show is going to be on there. It may not be completely live yet, but it's coming if not. So check out the Varsity app. Check out Group of Five guys. Florida Panthers, boys, 2-0. Is it a sweep?
Jeez. I honestly haven't been watching hockey.
I haven't watched a second of it, Sprouse, I'll be honest with you.
Look, you guys know I'm rooting for him because it's the home team. I really could care less. Like it's good for me because I don't get emotional like I do with the Dolphins or the Heat or anything like that. So it's like pretty fun, dude. It is intense, man. The thing about it is, like, it's always like the game's never out of reach. You know what I mean? It's always 1-0, 2-1, and any second they can score. So it's like, 19 minutes left, 1 minute left, 3 minutes left. Don't matter. You're thinking the next score is going to win the game probably. Yeah, so it's been intense. But, Florida's got the best goalie I've ever seen. I have not seen more than two, but he's good, man. Like, it's wild.
And that's what you need. Like, when you're going into the NHL playoffs, like, if you got a hot goalie, dude, you can make a run and get all the way to the finals. And, playoff hockey is awesome to watch. It's so fast-paced. That's why I love the NBA playoffs so much, is because every possession is back and forth. The games were tight. Now we look at, this final so far, the Seas have – and this is something I want to bring up real quick. We've talked about this previously. ESPN having a betting app and setting their own lines, this is confusing to me because all year long the Celtics have been favored, right? And then they still have been favored in the books. But ESPN, before this series, has been pushing this narrative like the Mavericks are just going to come in and roll the Seas. And guess what happens? Seas are doing what everybody originally thought they were going to do. So it's like you have the propaganda arm. You have this wing that can push the narratives that are driving money. I think it's because of just their programming has been down for so long. Like, how can we generate some more revenue? Well, let's push a narrative one way, set the lines the other. We rake in the dough. I don't like it. I think it's a little dishonest, if you ask me.
That was probably the best way. I've tried to put it in my words on multiple occasions, and I don't think I've gotten it across. That is it, right there. That's exactly it. And it's funny too. Like, when you're biased, it's towards a team, it's hard. But when you watch and you're neutral, you watch. It's creeped into hockey too. Now that I'm watching this, you can see the media people's like flat out disappointment when one team, when the New York team loses, or when the Boston team loses, or when the LA team loses. You just see they're mad. And like, again, I don't know nothing about hockey. I really don't. But I did watch the Florida Panthers beat the New York Rangers 4 times in the Eastern Conference Finals. And after every single game, they spent probably a minute and a half on something the Panthers did good. And the rest of the show was about why they blew it, why they were the team that lost, and their guys didn't do this and their guys didn't do that. And it's like, dude, they got beat 4 times now.
Yeah.
So and that team that beat them is now up 2-0 in the final. So it's like, maybe we should start talking about the team that's winning. And then you watch the NBA stuff. I only see this on social media, but I can't watch First Take and all of that stuff. But you're literally in the NBA finals, and every headline is still LeBron this, LeBron that. The Celtics are up 2-0, and it's why Jason Tatum is not an alpha number 1A.
Who are the Lakers going to hire as their head coach?
Who the Lakers going to hire? Now, they've also outed themselves too now, and this could get controversial if you guys take it wherever you want to take it. But the WNBA, okay, so I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time.
Be careful, Sprouse.
Well, this is going to come across a certain way now, Jeff. I said y'all would take it there. I'll take it there. Maybe it's always been like this, but I've not watched. But to me, it seems like it's attempting to be the same game as the NBA, which is fine. The problem there is it'll never be as good as the NBA if it's the same game as the NBA. You see what I'm saying? To me, if I want to watch women's basketball, it's because they're more fundamental than the NBA. It's more team basketball. It's more ball movement, team defense, all that stuff. But maybe it's just the few games that I've watched and it's Caitlin Clark and the drama and stuff. But to me, there's all this like, the one girl was like pretend flopping after she absolutely fouled Caitlin Clark. And it was like, the guys do that. And then people were like, well, the guys do it. It's like, yeah, they do. And it's what makes the NBA suck. So don't start doing stuff in the WNBA that make it, I don't know. But anyway, you go to the Olympic team, right? And there's people that are all up in arms because Caitlin Clark didn't make the Olympic team, which I don't know. I don't know who the 12 best players are. I know Diana Taurasi's been in the Olympics for 20 years. Maybe it's time to, but all the talking heads on ESPN, what did they all say it was about? It's all about the marketing. It's all about the ratings. We don't care about the best team, right? We want the ratings. Caitlin Clark brings the ratings. Don't care if she plays. Don't care if she's one of the 12 best. Well, Jeff, Tip, you know what else? We're going to have this conversation about not caring who the 12 best are when it comes to the college football playoff, and they're talking about the ratings and the marketing, and Notre Dame is going to be one of these teams, or Alabama, or any of the SEC teams, or USC, or Ohio State, or one of the big brands. It's going to be like, in that committee, they won't say it, but it's going to come right down to it. Well, look, if they got 2 or 3 losses, it's about the ratings. It's about growing the game, which there's a point of that. But that's the job of the NBA or the owners and the athletic directors and the presidents. It's not the job of these committees and the people building the Olympic roster. So it's a little bit scary. And I think they're outing. ESPN is outing themselves day by day with different comments and things of that nature. But anyway, I didn't take it. I didn't go too bad, did I?
No, you're fine.
We're fine. But I mean, I do like, I've tried to watch. I just hate to say it. I like watching like the biggest like freaks of nature guys do stuff that nobody else can do. And I hate to say that. That's why I watch wrestling. You know what I mean? Like that's why I have football, baseball. Yeah, dude, take steroids, hit it 500 feet. Don't care. That's what I want to watch.
All about it. Give me Canseco and McGuire and those.
Yeah.
And Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, all day long. They saved baseball. I mean, honestly, nobody was watching. I mean. By the way, so Tip, I was trying to tell you this before my mic was messing up before we got on. I was telling you that, the Braves AAA team, the Mississippi Braves, are moving to Columbus.
Oh, are they really?
They are.
So I think that's their AA team.
Is it AA? I think. But yeah, so they're coming to old Sprouse's town here.
There you go.
Nice.
Watch a little baseball. I go, of course, in my Marlins gear, but Marlins just can't figure it out either. They trade away their best players every year. The Marlins do. I don't understand it. But so anyway, Group of 5 football, Army, Navy. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. So now, it's always been that week 13, week 14 game where, right after the conference championship games. And now it is going to share with the Camellia Bowl and one other bowl. I can't remember, the Celebration Bowl, I think, which is the HBCU game. I believe that's what it is. So I have thoughts on this because that has to do with this is Army is now in the American with Navy. So it's not a conference game. They're still going to play every year. They're still going to play that final week of the season, but it's not going to count for a conference record, win or lose. I have my opinion. I'd like to get your guys' opinion on it first. Tip, do you have an opinion, first of all, on it? Do you care?
I honestly don't care, to be honest. I mean, with it being that week 13 matchup like it is, I do kind of wish it would be its own game like it has been in recent years. I think that's, it's what gives it that makes it so special. What makes that game so special? Like all eyes are tuned in on that game. Now, I don't know if they've announced the timings of the games. Maybe it's kind of like maybe they're not all played at the same time, and then the times kind of spread out throughout the day. But I do kind of wish that it still had, it was just the only game that day, to be honest. But if they shift those other two games to Sunday and then, maybe highlight them, as part of the game day, then I'm okay with that. But honestly, my opinion, I think it should be the only game on that Saturday.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think?
I guess I'm just a little confused on how a conference game can be after the conference championship.
It's not going to be a conference game.
So it's not a conference game.
Right. It's like what the ACC just did when NC State dropped a bunch of teams. They're going to play an ACC opponent in a non-conference game. But the thing about Army-Navy is it's going to be like that, it seems like, every year.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I don't like it being shared because I feel like it takes away from the spectacle that it's been. I think it's been an awesome game to watch, and I think it's such like a unique and like treasured rivalry. You diminish it a little bit when you just have, no offense to the Camellia Bowl, but those other bowls, like I think it should be on its own day, and that should be, we're celebrating not only the game but the people who have played in the game and the service academies and everything that comes along with it. I just think it's, again, I don't know.
I think will fix it. You know what I think will fix that? Make it the first game of the year.
Week 0.
Not even week 0. Make it before the week before that.
That'd be fine too.
Mm-hmm. See, count
it as a conference game. Now that they're in the same conference, count it as a conference game.
That's where I'm at.
The weekend before week 0, conference game, first game of the year. Let's make it happen.
See,
that'd be a great kickoff to the season too.
It would be. It would be, instead of watching Georgia Tech versus somebody in Dublin, Ireland. Like, what are we doing? But I'm with you on that. I think, I would like to see it played on rivalry weekend when all the other great rivalries play. I think it's it's obviously the most historic rivalry in the Group of 5. So I wish they would play it on that, that Thanksgiving weekend. Maybe Thanksgiving Day. I mean, you got playing on Thanksgiving Day? Memphis and somebody, I believe. But put it on a day, give it its own day. But here's my thing on playing it sort of after the season. I think 2 things. Playing it after the season is both teams conceding that they're not going to be in a better bowl game than their own bowl game. Army being in the Military Bowl or the Army, they're going to already have their bowl destination. So the game outside of it being Army versus Navy is meaningless, essentially. And so my thought is, and here's the other thing. What if one of them is in position to win the American or wins the American and then loses and it doesn't count? And maybe you have a team, well, let's just say Army, right? Let's just say Army beats everybody and wins the American and then loses to Navy. But let's say somebody else already lost to Navy in the regular season and doesn't get in because of that loss. And that, or if they're both good, people got to play them and count it as a conference loss, but they don't have to worry about beating each other. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Could you imagine, to relate it to everybody, could you imagine if Alabama and Auburn played at the end of the year and it didn't matter for the SEC standings? I mean, come on. And everybody else loses to Alabama, but Auburn, it don't count for them, so they get a free pass if they're also good. And then I just think, again, yeah, and in the event one of them is like really, really good, a 1-loss team, an undefeated team. I mean, like you're conceding a chance at anything bigger than your own bowl game, the Armed Forces Bowl or the Military Bowl, and I don't like that. And I mean, I don't know. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think if you asked players, I think they would want a chance at something bigger. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I like the kickoff to the season idea. I think
I like that too, and I like counting it.
Play. Yeah, I think it absolutely.
As a conference game should absolutely. I think that adds to the rivalry.
It does. 100% it does. Kevin Kilduff in the chat said Army Navy should be played in different cities each year with a heavy military presence. What do you think of that idea?
Love that idea.
I do
too.
Being in a very strong, large Army installation town right now, There's a couple places where they could probably do it, and it would be it would, first of all, it'd be great for whatever city's economy.
Yep.
I love that idea.
Yep.
Switch it up. Go where there's a naval base. Go where there's an army base.
Exactly. That's a great idea. See,
because you could still have home field advantage, right? Mm-hmm. You would just. It's a great idea.
I think we're just solving all the world's problems on this show right here.
But the way they got it right now is it's a glorified bowl game, to be quite honest with you.
Which I think diminishes it.
Camellia Bowl, which as Tip and I know very well, ain't a good one. I mean, geez. But any other thoughts on that? I think that's an interesting play by them.
I think
you
hit it on the head.
It's the worst scenario it could be is how they're about to do it. I think it was fine how it was, but now they're in the same conference, so it's interesting. You could make some changes, but I don't like it.
I don't see any advantage to not making that game count as a conference game. I really don't. I don't know why you'd come up with that. Like that was your solution. It's mind-boggling.
Who decided that? The conference?
I assume the conference. I don't know.
You probably got the government involved with it. They probably had a hearing. We could have watched it on C-SPAN. They'd be talking about it. Well, let's talk about these win totals. Before we do that, one more little thing to share. You guys know it already. SeatGeek. If you are going to any of these MLB games, WNBA games, if you're paying however many $1,000 to go to an NBA Finals or Stanley Cup game, check SeatGeek first. Use our code. It's all one word, group of 5 guys. They'll give you a $20 discount. So check that out on SeatGeek.
And real quick, before we move on, I do want to shout out the live chat on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter or Facebook and you go over to YouTube, there's an awesome live chat that we have every show. Vince Van Horn, our boy's in there. Kevin Kilduff's in there. Jackson Perry, Artie Cat 0811 is in there, and he's digging my Texas State gear. I'm all in. Eat them up.
Hey, something else I wanted to couple things. Man, I got a lot to share. So we gotta
get to the damn show, Sprouse.
No, don't worry about the show. I do live in a very heavy Army community, so I get new neighbors like every 3 years when they PCS and stuff like that, usually about this time of year. So I'm walking around the neighborhood. Guys, I got a La Tech license plate a couple doors down. I got an East Carolina sticker on the back of somebody's vehicle, and y'all are not going to like it, I got a big Liberty Flames flag flying high.
Yeah.
About a block over. So I'm about to start door knocking and see who we're dealing with over here.
I tell you what, if you had to talk about buzzwords on social media, you just say or type the name Liberty and you will get people they come from all directions.
Well, they say hate is the greatest form of flattery. So, what do you do? And then also, so I did tweet this. So I had to ride with a coworker to a meeting today, and we swung by his house, and I'm looking on his porch, and he's got a set of New Mexico Lobos cornhole boards. I thought that's an interesting piece there. He didn't have any real rhyme or reason for why he had it, but I thought it was, hey, we're all over the place, man. Group of 5 fandom is a real thing now.
I'm telling you.
So anyway, let's talk about these win totals. Start with the American. Jeff. Anybody too high, too low? Who's jumping off the page at you?
Man, I got a couple here, and I don't want to steal them all, but I'm gonna go with Army. I think is sneaky on the rise here. Jeff Monken's done a good job the last couple years, and honestly, if they can get past FAU in week 2, I think the Knights have a realistic chance of being 5-0. Now the back half of their schedule gets tougher for sure, especially with conference play, but they have 2 very convenient buys in the middle of that schedule. So I think Army's a team to look out for. Nobody really wants to play them. They've done a good job. They beat UTSA last year, if you remember that game, and I think they're a team to watch out for. What's I can't remember. Their line is
6.5.
6.5. If they start 5-0 or 4-1, I could see them winning a couple more games down the stretch and surprising some people and getting to 7 wins. That'd be a great season for Army.
Now, does the Navy game count in that line?
I'd assume it does. I assume it does. Yeah.
Don't count for anything else. Yeah, I had that. I had that in my notes too. I think you're spot on with Army. One thing too, I'm interested to see in the American. I haven't looked thoroughly at all the schedules, but is there anybody that's playing them both, Army and Navy, and playing them close to each other? Something to watch out for if that's especially if it's any time in the season, because guys are going to get beat up in those games. So that's just something to look out for if an American team has to play both Army and Navy, especially close together.
But I actually had Army too high.
Really?
But by half a game.
That means it's right on.
Half a game. Like I have them winning like 6 games. The main reason is their defensive side of the ball. They've lost 9 of their 11 top tacklers from last season on defense. So that the defense is just the biggest question mark to me. But I have them I have them at 6 wins. So that 6.5 number is like spot on.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Vegas was very, very accurate with most of these lines. Like they could go either way, and that's why they set the lines, right? They're the Sharks. Are the guys been doing it forever. But I don't think there was like a ton that was just so far off that you could make a strong case, for either side. So
I just discovered a problem, boys.
What you got?
So I've been prepping. The only preseason prep that I have right now is the Lindy's magazine, which probably spends the least amount of time on the Group of 5 schools. So they've got Army and Navy finishing 5 and 6 in the American. Okay, so they're on. If you can see, they're on a page right next to each other. Do you guys see that? So on the Army schedule, it says versus Navy in Foxborough, Massachusetts. And then on the next page, the one right next to it, on the Navy schedule, it says versus Army in Landover, Maryland. So, I mean, we don't even know where this game is. We don't know when it is.
I have Landover.
Anybody's
That's
record.
what I got.
Dude, I noticed a lot of things. Like when I was looking at some stuff, they always have the returning starters in bold or have like an asterisk next to it. And there were some guys that I'm like, brother, that guy's been starting on that team for 3 years. And they had matter of fact, well, actually, one of them, not 3 years, but Ishmael Mahdi at Texas State, they don't have as a returning starter. They have him as a starter, but not returning from a year ago. It's like, come on, bro. That guy led one of the all-time leading rushers. But anyway, yeah, Army. I had it at a little low, and that's because I'm with you, Jeff. Like I thought. I mean, they can start 6. I mean, they can start 6-0.
Yeah,
they could start 7-0. And here's the thing: Air Force is probably going to be down. I mean, there's a chance this is like a 10-win ball club, guys.
That's if everything goes right, but you know how it is.
Which it never does.
Which it never does.
Right.
And I think FIU is going to be a little better than they were.
No, I do too. I do too.
Rice is going to be better. Rice is going to be sneaky. So, but I think they get out of that. 4-2.
Yeah.
4-2 at the worst.
But yeah. Well, then then you go ECU, Air Force, North Texas. Notre Dame, UTSA, Navy, that stretch is going to be their toughest spot.
So. They struggled against the run. So, I mean, but teams that run the ball well, they're not UAB.
You get the bye. This is what I was talking about. You get the bye after FAU. So you get an extra week to prepare for Rice, who I think is going to be better. Temple's going to be rough. Tulsa, same thing. UAB will be better. But having that game at home helps them. And same with ECU at home. So their schedule is favorable in my opinion, but they gotta put it all together too. So,
yeah. Well, anyway, that's a lot. That's a lot of time. Who else did you have? Or Tip, you had Army too high. Jeff, what else did you have in the American?
I had Rice. I think Rice is going to be better. They get EJ Warner coming over. Now with him getting acclimated, I think. Getting some live bullets the beginning of the season is going to be important. But they play the bulk of the tougher opponents at the end of the season. So if they can get hot early, EJ can get, comfortable, I mean, you never know. They could make a run. I could see him being a 7-win Owl team. I think that number was. I think it was all these numbers. Honestly, I think are pretty spot on. But that one, I could see it being over, and it wouldn't surprise me.
What do you guys think about Tulane at 7.5? I think that's a little low. Yeah. Now, granted,
they have tough stretch.
They got a tough stretch. Yeah, I mean, okay. They're beating Southeast Louisiana. Kansas State's probably a toss-up. Oklahoma's going to be tough. At Louisiana is going to be a lot tougher than I think a lot of people think. South Florida's going to be tough. But Louisiana, South Florida, I think they'll be favored in both of those.
Yeah, I think they win those.
They'll beat UAB.
Should beat UAB.
They should beat Rice.
UAB is going to be better.
I mean, here you look at the back half of this schedule. From UAB, Rice, North Texas, Charlotte, Temple, Navy, they're winning all those games.
Yeah, and then you get to Memphis at the end of the year.
So that was 6. So they got to win 2 out of, and then they're beating Southeast Louisiana. That's 7. So if they're under, they're losing every single toss-up game.
Then I don't think they do that. If Tulane's as good as I'll just speak for myself. If Tulane is good as I think they are, I think that number is low.
Yeah,
I do.
I
think that number's low. But, it's just if they can, I hope they beat Kansas State.
Home versus Memphis the last week of the year.
That's what I'm saying. We're talking about our travel plans, man. That is one. But that's on Thanksgiving.
You guys ever had Thanksgiving? Day. Yeah. Have you guys ever had Thanksgiving on Bourbon Street? I wouldn't mind doing it. No, come on. You got to do that in Lafayette.
Okay.
Which, by the way, I don't know if Stu or Tripp is on, but Tripp was talking to me about October 12th when the App State Mountaineers head to Lafayette for a ball game, it's when I got to go down there and meet those cats. But anyway.
Listen, boys, I mean, look, let's get the rat poison talk. Let's get it going. I'm not betting against John Sumrall. That number is too low. I'm taking the over.
You're spewing all types of rat poison.
I'm taking the over. Spoiler alert, I'm taking Tulane plus 380 to win the conference.
That's good money. I like that.
Like it.
That's good money.
Yep.
And here's the other.
Against John Sumrall. I'm not doing it.
You talk about rat poison. People, and I think they are the other top team in the conference in Memphis. But I get worried when the general public starts really getting on a team. I do. And I've seen people write about them, and they're on Memphis. And that worries me just a little bit. I'll tell you one who I thought was too high, and then we can move on from the conference and I love the Roadrunners. They lost a lot. They've lost a lot, and these were guys that were there. These were guys were the program builders, along with Jeff Traylor. And I think when you lose that much, this is going to be like, for me, how good is the system that Traylor's implemented? How good is that program that he's built? How does that transition with the underclassmen that are now moving into that upperclassman role? Because they have them at, where they got them at?
8.5.
8.5.
Yeah.
That's a little steep in a conference that's very competitive. And then let me pull up their schedule here. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
I have another one in the – oh, my bad.
I was just going to go over their schedule just real quick. I mean, they open with Kennesaw State. That should be a nice dub. But then you go on the road. You get the Bobcats in San Marcos. And you go to, Texas Longhorns. That's going to be tough. You go to at ECU. I think ECU is going to be better. And anytime you play in that environment, it's going to be rowdy. So, 8.5, that's a tall number. I think they could be a 7-8 win team unless there's just somebody that emerges on that offense, especially at the quarterback position, that just completely takes over, and which could very well happen. But you're just trying to replace a lot on offense, especially.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Conference USA. I mean, the big one is Liberty, 10.5. Which, to be honest with you, I think it's spot on. You're giving them one game they can lose. They do. I will say this: that early season stretch, I think they're UTEP, ECU, and App State that's a tough stretch. But again, they can afford to drop one of them and still hit the over on this. So, I think it's just right. I just 10.5 is crazy.
I agree with you. I think it's high. I think it's high for any team considering it's college football. And here's the other thing is last year, with Liberty coming in, you kind of didn't know what to expect. They are getting everybody's best shot this year. Everybody wants to beat them. Most people don't like them to begin with. And now that they won the conference, and I just think that you have a target on your back and you better be ready week in and week out. But if there's one team that's done awesome in the portal this offseason, it's Liberty. And they already had a ton of guys coming back. So, I mean, I think that line's about right. It's pretty honest, you know?
It's tough losing C.J. Daniels out there, though. That connection they had last year.
Yeah, but it's
going to be tough to replace.
It will be. You can't just replace a guy like that. But they've gotten guys in the portal and in Chadwell's system. I mean, he's been able to produce very good receivers when he was at Coastal and even before then. So I think on the outside they're going to be fine. You have your quarterback coming back, who's a dynamic player. That was your biggest offseason keeper right there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be just fine. Anybody else in Conference USA jump out at you?
Blue Raiders. Jacksonville State's too low.
Ooh, too low.
Jacksonville State's going to be
too low. 7.5. I'm not betting against Rich Rod. Just like I'm not betting against John Summerall. Rich Rod came in there, and they did well last year in their first year in Conference USA. I think they're too low at 7.5. They are favored at home week 1 against Coastal Carolina. They're favored by like 3.5 points. That's a winnable game.
Very much so.
Louisville's going to be tough, but I mean,
what are they at? What'd you say they're at?
7.5.
Yeah, this is a 9-win ball club.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Again, I start to get a little worried when people start like getting on these teams. So we'll see. I think they're a very good ball club, and Rich Rod has proven it, but I think 7.5 is about right. I think there's teams in Conference USA that people aren't that are sleeping on these teams that I think could be better. And you want to know one, Sprouse? You want to know one tip? It's our damn Blue Raiders. 4.5. 4.5.
Seven of these 10 Conference USA teams are at 4.5 or less win totals.
Well,
somebody's got to hit the over.
That's what I'm saying. I honestly think, and hear me out here. You got, Derek Mason coming in. I think he's done a good job at energizing his players, the ones that stayed. He's done I think he's done a decent job in the portal as far as getting what you can get at a school like Middle. But I think their biggest acquisition, probably of the offseason, strength and conditioning coach, Jamie Blatnick. I've been looking at this guy's workout, and I've had a chance to talk to this guy. This guy, to me, reminds me of a Rusty Witt, a guy that just loves what he does. He gets in the weeds with his players, and he's got a very unique training regimen as far as what he does with his players, which is different from a lot of other strength and conditioning coaches in college football. And I think Middle's issue over the last several years has been health. They haven't been able to stay healthy, and size and speed as well. So and to me, that goes to the strength and conditioning coach. Now, some of the stuff you cannot control. I get it. Guys get rolled up on, that happens. But they've had too many guys that randomly just go out for whatever reason. But this guy, I think, has been a big pickup. Just looking at the guys, I was there the other day. They look bigger. They look more athletic. They look longer. So I think, the beginning of the season, as always with the Blue Raider team, they could come out of that stretch 1-4. 2-3, and I don't expect the Middle Tennessee faithful. I think they're going to do what they normally do and be like, oh, God, here we go. Like every other season when we open up with a tough stretch. But just keep an eye on that back half of the season. And then the last thing I think that's biggest for them is I think Nick Vadiato is a damn good quarterback. And I think if you give this guy any resemblance of a running game in a defense that can stop anybody below, keep points scored under 30 points, I think he can make a big jump in this offense with Bodie Reeder as the OC. I think they go over. I really do. I think they go over 4.5. I think it's too low.
They got to protect him. I mean, that was the question mark last year. We all said it. I mean,
yeah, but a lot of that, when you cannot run the ball, people are pinning their ears back. Yeah. So I think the system is going to help Nick, and it gives him more control.
I mean, here's the good news for the Blue Raider, for the team, number one, hopefully they get a chance to get a little taste of some support from the community. The good news is you have your biggest rivalry coming into town week 3. So it's early, and you'll more than likely be 1-1 at that point. So it's not a situation where Western Kentucky comes in there in the middle of October and you're, 2-5 and the fans have already dumped you. So I just hope that the crowd shows up. I saw Derek Mason's little speech about fans showing up, and I hope they do, man. Again, like we've always said, I just hope that he gets the chance that we all wanted Coach Stock to get. And so far, it seems like he's getting it, at least more so. But we shall see as far as the crowd goes. Anybody else in conference who say, 4.5 honestly is about right, which really tells me that they don't know. And 1 or 2 of those teams is probably going to win 6 or 7 games, and the rest of them are going to be 2, 3, 4 win teams. What about the MAC? I'll take. Well, okay, go. You guys go first.
Well, I thought somebody else would have some on conference user. Can I just do a quick plug for UTEP?
Yeah, they're going to be good.
I think UTEP's going to be. Going to be a lot better than they were last year, and they're at 4.5 too. And I think you're right, Sprouse. I think Vegas just doesn't know what to do with them. But we had a chance to interview Scotty Walden about a month or 2 ago, and I think he's got that program heading in the right direction. He's done some good job bringing some guys in. Reminds me of when G.J. Kinney left Incarnate Word. He's coming from Austin Peay, bringing a lot of guys with him to help build that culture. I think they're a 5-6 win ball club. I do. I think 4.5 is low for UTEP.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. What about the MAC? What do you think?
So I have Akron too high at 3.5 wins.
Oh, Tip.
Jeez. I know. I hate to do it. I hate to do
it. Right there.
I hate to do it. They won 2 games last season. Yes, DJ Irons did get injured, but he's graduated. Your top running backs now in the NFL from last year. Your top receiver from last year transfers to UConn. They're just not bringing, they just lost a lot of their talent, and I just don't see them winning 2 more games compared to last year's team. So, yeah, sorry, Akron fans. Hate to knock you down while you're already down, but I think 3.5 is a little too high. I just don't see them winning 2 additional games from last year. I don't see them winning 4 games.
That's fair. Jeff, what do you think?
I think, as a whole, the MAC pretty much got rated in the transfer portal and not a lot replaced, barring a couple teams did a decent job replacing what they lost. I think Ohio at 6.5 is a little high. I'm going to be honest. I think they lost a lot on both sides of the ball. And this stretch at the beginning of the season, Syracuse, South Alabama, Kentucky in the first 5 weeks, I think that's going to be rough. And then they play Miami, Toledo, and Central Michigan all on the road this year. And then you don't have the divisions this year in the MAC, which is going to be something to watch. But I like the Bobcats. I think they've done a good job keeping that program kind of at the top of the MAC. I just think losing that much on both sides of the ball is almost impossible to replace. So I think 6.5 is just maybe a hair too high.
What'd you guys think about Miami? They're at 7.5, correct? This is moving.
The line is moving. Yes,
it's moving.
About a week ago, it was 8.5. Now it's down to 7.5.
I'll tell you what scares me about Miami is they play their 4 toughest games in the first 5 weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. So they're at Northwestern, they're home versus Cincinnati, they're at Notre Dame, then they're playing home with UMass, but then they're at Toledo. So, to win, it's going to be tough for them to not lose at least 2 of those. Honestly, that's a tough stretch. Northwestern, I don't think is going to be very good, but you never know. Week 1, you just never know. It's on the road. Cincinnati's a rivalry game. They beat them last year for the first time in a long time. At Notre Dame, they already been penciled into the playoff, so that's tough. And Toledo's always good. So the reason that scares me is now I think they'll be favored, but it does not allow any room for error after that. That's the key there, because you get upset once and now you're talking about 7-5. That's what scares me about them. I do think they're far and away the favorite in the MAC, though.
Yeah, I agree, and I think like you said, just from that first stretch that they have, physicality always plays a role and in that first 3-game stretch, you could get beat up, and then you go, you play Toledo week, the 5th game of the season. Toledo lost some, but they're still going to be a good team. So I agree with you. I think 7.5 is about right, and I think they are the favorite in the MAC though.
Anybody else in the MAC? Or are we ready for the Mountain West?
I got one more.
What you got?
Central Michigan. I think
sounds like you're going to go too low here.
I am going to go too low. I think the Chippewas are due for sort of a climb back to prominence in the MAC. I think they're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the conference for sure. They did a fairly decent job of keeping some of their key players, but I think the biggest thing is they had 2 of their quarterbacks transfer out, and they have a kid in Burt Emanuel Jr. His father was in the NFL. Yeah, good player in the NFL. This guy's a dynamic quarterback. If he can improve in his passing game in this offseason, they have veteran receivers on the outside. They know he can run the ball. He'll probably be the leading rusher on the team. But if he can get that other dynamic and be efficient in the passing game, look out for Central Michigan. I think 5.5 is too low. I think he does improve. I think they get in a good spot. I think they're a 6 or 7 win team this year.
I like it. Whatever happened with Lou Nichols? Where's he at these days?
Honestly, hadn't kept up.
Made an NFL roster or not?
Probably on a practice squad or something.
Yeah. Anyway, well, let's move on to the Mountain West. What are you guys thinking there?
I think Colorado State's too low at 6.5.
Ooh.
I think this is going to be a big year for them. They won 5 games last year. They had that hiccup of a game the last week of the season against Hawaii that they should have won that game. But the defense improved over the second half of last season. I think that transitions well into this season. And you have the best wide receiver in the group of 5 and Torrey Horton coming back this year. So I think all of that combined gets this Colorado State team over 6.5 wins.
The Mountain West with Ricky White and Torrey Horton both coming back, there's going to be one of those 2 guys is going to come out as like a national household name at some point in this season. Probably Torrey Horton when they beat Colorado this year.
Mm-hmm.
But when he does Travis Hunter, I think Colorado State. I hope they beat the hell out of Colorado. I think they're the better team. Colorado, it seems like, is going to be worse. I don't know. I mean, they get a bunch of guys, but they lost a bunch of guys, and it just seems
they lost so many guys.
I think the prime experiment is over. I think internally, I think they're in shambles now. I think the Big 12 is not a great conference.
Yeah.
So I think they'll get away with it a little more. I don't give him much more time, man. I think once his kids are gone, I think he bounces.
Well, he's gonna leave. Yeah, he's gonna leave without getting fired. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Seems like. Yeah. Mountain West is. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's so. There's 6-7 teams that could beat anybody in the conference. So that's what scares me about all of these teams.
What do you think about Air Force, Sprouse?
I think they're gonna have a tough time. What are they at? 4.5? Is that what they're 6.5? Sorry.
If it's 4.5, man. I would take the over just solely based off their offense.
They had 2 of the most senior-led teams in a while the last 2 seasons, and they lost all of it now. And then the way that they collapsed at the end of the season last year is like just ingrained in my head. I mean, they had a chance to be there. I mean, they were cruising. And then they just they lay 4 eggs in a row at the end of the season. Something bad. And then they beat James Madison in the bowl game.
Imagine if that happened this season. What if Air Force got off to that hot start, front runner to make it?
I'd be booking playoff tickets.
And then they lose 4 in a row. Oh man, that would have been.
We'd be in Colorado Springs at 7,000 feet above sea level, marching around the terrazzo. I mean, unbelievable. It would have been a good time, but. This you're gonna have a tough time. I don't know, man. I think that's. I mean, I think it's a good line, and I think they'll be fine, right? I mean, they're. The good thing about places like that is
you team going bowling with a chance to win that 7th game. That 6.5 number is right on the money.
The key for them, their goal this year needs to be to win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, because I don't think they're winning the Mountain West this year. Now, last year, baffling how they freaking
fell
choked
apart.
that away. I don't know. I'll tell you, Hawaii, this is more on the schedule side, but I want to bring this up since we're on the Mountain West, and then we were probably going to start going a little faster here. Hawaii's schedule, they are on the road every other week. They are home away, home away, home away. Outside of weeks 1 and 2, they're at home, okay? So then they are on the road, back home, on the road, back home. I mean, brutal. Absolutely brutal. I don't know what their travel schedule's like, how they do it, but I'm fairly certain they're like a Thursday night travel kind of team.
Have to be, I think.
So they are going to be just traveling all the time, man, and they're going to basically be on a short week every week. I mean, that's tough for them, but that's all I really got in the Mountain West. You got anybody else?
I think UNLV's a little low. I think UNLV's a damn good team. I think Barry Odom's done a great job over there. We obviously have had him on in their OC on Inside Drill, but if they can come out of that initial stretch, I mean, they go at Houston. I think that's a very winnable game.
Winnable game,
to be honest with you. So if they can get past Houston, Utah Tech, at Kansas will be tough, but then they get a bye week, which is going to be crucial for them, where they play Fresno at home and Syracuse at home. I just think it's all going to depend on their quarterback situation, right? But I think what made, Maava so good last year was the system. I really do. And after talking to Marion, I think they're going to be able to plug a guy in, and I think that offense is going to continue to roll. And you probably got, 1A, 1B on best receiver in the conference, Ricky White and Torrey Horton. So I think UNLV's in a good spot. I think 7.5 is a little low. I think this is an 8 or 9 win ball club.
Well, and they get most of their toughest games at home.
Yep.
You might have mentioned that already, but that's key.
In the back half of their schedule, you look at Hawaii, San Diego State, San Jose, and Nevada. So if you can come out of that first half of the schedule, in a decent spot, you could run the table the rest. I think they find themselves right back in the Mountain West Championship game.
Yeah. And one thing about that schedule too is, when you have the Power Fives on your schedule, right, you look at a Boise State who's got to go on the road to Oregon in week 2. Going to Oregon is a whole lot different than going to Kansas.
Yeah.
Now, Kansas is supposed to be pretty decent this year, but from a physicality standpoint, like you mentioned earlier, Jeff, it's like Boise's going to have guys beat up from that Oregon game. UNLV, Houston, Kansas, and Syracuse are not going to beat you up physically. So something to look out for later in the year when we start talking about health, that they don't have to play anybody that's physically dominant, like an Oregon, a Michigan, Ohio State, a Georgia, and Alabama. So that's definitely something to look out for. Anybody else in the Mountain West, or we go in Sun Belt?
Move on to the Sun Belt.
Yep.
Well, what do y'all think?
I think App State's too low.
Ooh.
7.5. App State's too low. This App State team last season, they went 3-4 in one possession games, and they still won 9 games last year. Those 50-50 games, I think that reverses this year. I think they have a winning record in those one possession 50-50 games. And I think this is a 10-win team, and I think they have a legit shot of being one of the team, or the group of 5 representative in the playoff.
I like it.
I do like it. Can they go to Clemson and win that game?
I hope so.
It's,
I don't
so
know.
Dabo
crazy
doesn't believe in the transfer portal. So.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. That guy is just.
He made. I don't. It's not an exact quote, but he made some kind of. This isn't an exact quote, but he said something like, "Transfers aren't good enough to play here at Clemson," or something like that.
That's what I'm talking
about.
That's
what he said. He said. Did you listen to the whole thing? The context of that?
No.
So here's what's funny is it made a lot of sense, but at the same time, it's like, bro, I mean, Georgia's getting transfers. I mean, Michigan's getting transfers. They won the national championship, but like, he basically was talking about the types of kids that are in the portal. So he was saying kid number one is probably not getting a bunch of playing time. That if they're not getting playing time somewhere else, they're not getting it at Clemson, is basically what he said. And he said, so that guy's not good enough to play here. And then he said, of course, like transfer number two is all about the money. That kid's not coming to Clemson. I don't know. I mean, I'm with you though. It's like, hey, I mean, somebody's good enough, buddy. Or the kid that's transferring, most of the type of kids Clemson is getting is a kid that balled at a so-called lower level school, and they're transferring up to a Clemson. But I mean, dude.
Who's more cringy, Dabo Swinney or Jason Tatum?
Come on, dude. Jason Tatum. Dude, that guy is a Hall of Fame cornball. I mean, I
always know what to get Sprouse going.
I mean, I'm not alone in this.
Texting a dead Kobe Bryant's phone.
Texting a dead Kobe Bryant before the game saying, I got you, bro, and then dropping like a very mediocre performance.
16,
and then wearing
17 points.
The Kobe Bryant Celtics practice shirt. Like Kobe gave a shit about the Boston Celtics ever in his life. I mean, it's like, just play basketball, man.
Did you see the video where Dabo Swinney, and we got to move off of this, but where he was like doing a video with the recruit and he goes,
he didn't know his name.
And what's your name? So bad. It's so bad.
You know who else is cringe since we're on the App State topic is Eli Drinkwitz. You see him playing the air guitar with a recruit.
Oh my gosh.
All these guys are they're just so corny. When I was getting recruited, they would always send like the young cool coach to recruit the kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like maybe that was just like that's who they sent to South Florida. It's like the young cool guy. And I mean, Eli Drinkwitz is like, obviously he's a hell of a coach, but he's he's kind of nerdy looking. He's pretty funny. He's pretty like, I don't know what you'd call his sense of humor, but it just seems like there's no way that these recruits are digging this. They probably gonna be like, the coach is a loser, but I'm gonna go here because the NIL collective's throwing me a bunch of points.
That's exactly what it is.
So anyway, I'm with you, dude. App State, I'm just looking at their schedule and their roster right now. They're going to be
that Week 5 game against Liberty. That could be the determining factor.
That's a great non-conference schedule for App State. You go to Clemson, and Clemson has been one of the true Power Fives over the last decade, but it's not I don't know, for some reason App State it don't scare me anybody they play. Because how App State is able to continuously beat these teams, everybody knows it's coming, and they still show up and put it on everybody. But then Liberty, I mean, that's the perfect Group of 5 non-conference game. So you got a chance to win them both. And even if you lose one, if you win the rest, if you win the Sun Belt, I mean, a pretty good argument.
I'm not betting against Sean Clark, number one, and number two, anybody that has to go to Boone for a game.
Good luck.
That's what I'm saying. You got Liberty at Boone, James Madison at Boone. Yep. 2 massive home games.
And I posted something on X the other day about that game, Liberty and App State, and the back and forth between
were all the replies about Jerry Falwell and stuff that had nothing to do with football.
I mean, man, it's the hatred. I mean, it's there.
Anytime Twitter's like been slow for a little while, you're exactly right. All I gotta do is we find something about Liberty and tweet it. And everybody but Liberty fans will have a response.
Hey, but the Liberty fans come hard though. They were defending why they thought they were going to win. I just said, hey, all I'm saying is I think it's a great non-conference game, and it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle in Boone. I got one I think is too high and one I think is too low.
What you got?
For too high, I think James Madison is too high. 8.5. I mean, you're talking about you lose your head coach. You lose a lot of your coaches. You lose your starting quarterback, who is one of the top quarterbacks in the conference. again, I just don't know how you replace all that being in a Sun Belt conference that every week is a dogfight, and then you go on the road to Boone on that schedule as well. I just think 8.5's a little high. I still think they're going to be a good team. I think their fan base shows out. I think they got a real home field advantage. But to me, 8.5's a little high. I think they're 6-7 win team in a good spot. You want to know who I think is too low, boys?
Are you wearing their gear?
I think this is Texas State's year. I think G.J. Kinney's got it figured out. You bring the top player in the Sun Belt over from James Madison to run that offense. You got Mahdi in the backfield. Besides Liberty, I think Texas State had one of the most productive off seasons as far as getting more guys in. He's built the culture. It's there. A lot of expectations. He'd call it rat poison. I've noticed he's been using that rat poison emoji as well, same as Summerall, but I'm all in on Texas State. And that week, 2 matchup? San Antonio. That's gonna be a hell of a game.
And I know
in San Marcos.
I know we're about to talk about easy schedules and tough schedules. It's hard for me to say that anyone in the Sun Belt has an quote unquote easy schedule because it's the Sun Belt. But if you look at Texas State's schedule, the East teams that they don't have to play this year, the Sun Belt East, they don't have to play James Madison. They don't have to play App State. They don't have to play Coastal or Marshall or Georgia Southern. They don't have to
as
play
easy as you can get it in the Sun Belt.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
8.5.
Hammer the over.
Eat them up.
I like that. We should go to San Marcos soon. What about schedules? I'm going to give you – well, let me give you an easy one just because you brought it up. UTSA schedule to me. Now, number one, they don't play Tulane. But other than Texas State, which is probably going to be a pick'em, then they're at Texas. They'll probably lose that game. They ought to be 7-1 by the time they play Memphis in San Antonio. And then North Texas Temple Army is your end of the year. I mean, it seems like they are set up to be at least in contention for the championship game. I mean, again, you don't play Tulane. Yes, you're at Texas State, you're at Texas. But other than that, I mean, Kennesaw State, Houston Christian, East Carolina, Rice, FAU. Rice, FAU, East Carolina, right? They're going to be better. But if UTSA is supposed to be a juggernaut like they've been, which I guess we'll find out quick. We'll find out real quick what they're going to be about.
Yeah, and that was my point earlier. Was I just think there's a lot of question marks, and this is going to be a big. I actually think it's when your headphones or something went out, but I think it's a big year. It's going to show what Traylor has done as far as building a program, because you lose a lot of your top guys that have been your top producers over the last couple of years. Let's see if they can replace them and keep at the same level that they've been. I think they can. I think it's just going to be tough though. Anytime you're replacing that much production all at once, it's going to be difficult.
I have a tough schedule that actually is very, very disheartening for me to bring up here tonight. And I believe they're sitting at 6.5 on the win total, but South Florida Bulls, man, I was very hopeful about a big breakout season, a lot of momentum coming into the season. And whoever the schedule people are that put this thing together for them, they're going to beat Bethune-Cookman. Then, at Alabama, at Southern Miss, home versus Miami Hurricanes, at Tulane, home versus Memphis. I mean, this team is going to be 1-5. And then they're going to have to win out to get to over. I mean, it's very unfortunate. And this is, okay, so let me say this clear right now to the people of Tampa, Florida, Bradenton, Florida, St. Petersburg, South Florida Bowl territory, which is really kind of like Midwest Florida. But this team is going to be very good. Their schedule is brutal. So if they are 1-5, 2-4, when it comes to the meat of the schedule, Do not stop showing up for this team. Because guess what? Even if you're 1-5 after week 6, you only have 2 conference losses at that point, if that's what even happens. So, if you're 1-4 and then you get Memphis at home, that is a gigantic game because then you're 1-1 in the conference with a win against the favorite. So all I'm saying is when it starts out slow for these teams, you got to look at the schedule, you got to look at how it shakes out, and you got to look at the back half because, I mean, if 2 teams go 8-4, one of them starts 0-4, and one of them starts 4-0, at the end of the year, it don't matter. But the team that started 4-0 is going to have fans at the rest of their damn games. But you got to look at the way the schedule shakes out. But I'm really nervous about the Bulls, man. A lot of momentum coming out of last year, and then they just waltz right into that.
Yeah,
and it's just tough, man.
And again, I feel like people are kind of like expecting a really, really like breakout good year, which worries me. I'll tell you a schedule that I don't want to call it easy because I don't think any Sun Belt schedule is easy, but the way it lines up, the Georgia Southern Eagles have an interesting schedule here. Boise State at home. First game of the season. Now hear me out. Paulson Stadium's going to be rocking, right? Boise's got to come across the country. You have a brand new quarterback. Supposed to be a good good was a 5-star at USC, now 4-star, so obviously he's dropped a little bit. But
he got worse.
He got worse. But you're coming across the country, and it's really your first, like big start at your new school, right? That's not going to be an easy game. Now maybe Georgia Southern wins, maybe they lose, relevant. At Nevada, you got to travel, but Nevada's had a tough time, and I don't think they're going to be much better. Then you get South Carolina State at Ole Miss. That's going to be tough. Then you get to go to at Georgia State. We don't know a lot. They lost some pieces. They got a new coach late in the game. I expect Georgia State to just be a little down this year than they have been. But then you get a nice bye before you got to play Marshall. So essentially you get 2 weeks off before you got to play typically a pretty darn good Marshall team. That helps them. James Madison, I don't think it is be as good. ODU's ODU, but I think that's a winnable game. At South Alabama, which will be tough. But then you get another bye before you got to play Troy at home, which has a new coach, a lot of new players. Coastal, I think, is going to be rough, and then you finish the season with a rivalry game. I think Georgia Southern might have a pretty good year this year. I really do. And I think with that damn tight end they got down there, boys, I think sky's the limit on that offense.
Well, that's a fair point. I mean, we'll see.
Just the way it sets up with those buys against key opponents that are tough outs normally. You get an extra week of rest and 2 weeks to plan. I don't know.
Pip, what are you thinking?
So going back, for an easy schedule, how about, and this will help you all with your pick on this team in the line, but Army coming into the American, they don't have to play Memphis, South Florida, or Tulane this season. So that helps you all with the over on the 6.5 win total. But I go back to the biggest question mark on this team is the defense. I'm not concerned about the offense. That being said, if they run into a good defensive team that stops that offense, that puts the Army defense on the field more often, and that's where you see Army struggle. When that offense is dominating the time of possession on offense, that defense gets to rest, and they usually win those games. But again, it's an easy-ish schedule, mainly because you don't have to play those 3 teams. Hard schedules, and we've mentioned both of these teams earlier, but it's because it's so difficult for these 2 teams at the beginning of the year. That is Tulane and Miami of Ohio. If they get off to bad starts or average starts, it gets them in a position where they cannot mess up for that middle to the end of the season, or their whole season's gonna be done. If you get off to in the first 4 weeks for either one of these teams, you win. If you're like 2-3 in the first 5 weeks, it makes it to the point where you can't mess up, especially Tulane. You got realistic. I mean, they could win 3 of those games, but I mean, at Louisiana is not a guaranteed win. That's going to be a tough game. Sprouse, you just mentioned South Florida is on the rise this year. They're at home that game, but that's still a tough opponent. I mean, that if you win those games, that makes it to where you cannot mess up that beginning to the end part of the season. And then you got Memphis coming into town. That's the favorite to win the conference. It puts them in a potentially difficult situation.
Yeah, puts a ton of pressure on them.
Right.
I mean, and then you have those games early, and then if you're banged up late, you can't slip up. If you got a guy, you can't sit anybody that's maybe at 75%, something like that.
Miami of Ohio. I mean, the biggest conference game is Week 5 against Toledo. You win that game, you're essentially quote unquote, you pretty much control your own destiny to win in the conference, or at least go into the championship game. If you lose that game, now the pressure's on them to win out, and they got all these, all those conference games to end the season. That puts the pressure on you, and you got to have Toledo lose. Now I know they could play each other in the championship game, but having that big of a conference game at the beginning of the season is huge, and it can lead to how it looks for them for the rest of the season.
What about Liberty's schedule?
minus obviously the game at Boone. I think that's their only loss of the year, personally. Now, do they slip up on one of these games? Maybe Jacksonville State comes to Liberty and beats them. But I don't think they go undefeated this year.
They open up the season at New Mexico State. I know they're losing a lot and probably going to be down, but they were in the championship game a year ago. Then they get UTEP, and you get ECU. Then they're at App State. I mean, listen, it's not an easy stretch. It's a tougher schedule than it was last year for them. I'll say that. I mean, and then what do they get? Western Kentucky towards the end of the year, I believe. So, but yeah, I mean, have you ever seen anybody at 10.5 wins?
It's a lot.
Preseason? I mean, have you ever even seen like Michigan, Bama? That's probably what they normally are, I guess.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Whew. Tell you what, that November 9th game at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium, you better watch out now.
November 9th? Oh, boy. Night game?
At least it's on a Saturday. No, that's a 1 p.m. kick. It won't be a lot of people.
That's a 1 p.m. kick, so it'll be 55 degrees, probably raining.
Maybe. It's around my birthday.
350 screaming Raider fans in attendance.
I got one that's just an absolute brutal schedule, and then we probably got to...
Yeah, we got to sign off this thing.
Get it pushing, but them damn poor Kent State Golden Flashes. At Pitt to open the season. Then they get St. Francis at home. At Tennessee. At Penn State. Then you go Eastern Michigan. You get a bye. You got your in-conference play. Bowling Green's going to be better, but you're on the road there. Then you got at Miami later on. But that, good God. Pitt... Tennessee and Penn State all on the road within 4 weeks. You might not have a damn roster left physically.
Was it last year or the year before? They played Georgia till the fourth quarter a year or two ago, I believe it was.
Yeah, well,
but yeah,
was that when they had what's his name, Sean Lewis?
I think it was. I feel like it was last year. I was in Statesboro watching it, so I don't
really.
Yeah, but I don't remember what game it was, or it must have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't last year.
Georgia.
I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. So they had a squad that year.
Yeah,
and then they lost everybody.
Yeah, 39-22.
And I believe Kent was up like 22-13 or something weird. But anyway,
yeah.
Anybody else jumping off the page, or are we ready to hit it here? Call it quits. I do want to just mention. We've got some stuff penciled in for this fall. Listen, we're gonna do some events like live tailgate. We're gonna do the live show. We got some big tailgate party events happening. Working with a couple of partners potentially. So a lot of big stuff happening with the group of 5 guys. As always, we need everybody's help. The more clicks, the more follows, the more shares. The more likely we are to be able to spread this word that we're trying to spread. and take this thing to the next level. But we got some big stuff happening this fall. What's up, Jeff? We got voicemail. I always forget.
We got one voicemail.
Guys, season's coming now. We got to call the hotline 615-900-4286. Give us your hot takes. Start talking trash, or if you have a question for us or just a comment towards us, holler at us.
Let's get right to it.
Hey, boys. Stu's writing Twitter again. A couple things after listening to the episode about Josh Pate. I enjoy Josh Pate for the most part. I generally enjoy listening to him. Listening to that rant about the Group of Five, I was screaming at the damn radio because I agree with everything that y'all are saying about it. Outside of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, some of them, nobody plays the same game that those schools play. I don't have the solution, but excluding us and keeping Mississippi State and Vandy, Wake Forest and Boston College, Purdue, it's a joke. And it is an absolute joke. If you want those top 8 programs to break away and let all of them come play with us, then we'll figure out who's playing real football. Second thing, because I don't have a solution to the Group of Five playoff, whatever answer, what we need to get rid of is these bullshit bowl tie-ins for conferences. Let Appalachian go play Air Force in a bowl game. Let Tulane go play Fresno in a bowl game. Let Liberty go play, I don't know, Toledo. Let the best Group of Five programs play the best Group of Five programs in those bowl games and see what the ratings look like. If those ratings are good, maybe it is worth having a separate playoff. I don't know that it would be. I don't like the lesser than moniker like I've mentioned before. But if we can get rid of these 6-6 MAC team playing the Sun Belt champion, get rid of those bowl games, let the best Group of Five teams play each other, and see what that looks like. I guarantee you I'd go watch us play a Boise or a Fresno or a UNLV or somebody like that. I don't know, just a thought.
Appreciate you, Stu. I agree with him on the bowl tie-ins and how they're set up. I think it should be fine. Figure out what the best matchup is, and hell, figure out a way to bid on them or something. Get these.
Is there a reason why they do that? Is it just part of the deal with the bowl games, like each of the bowl games?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know.
Say that again, Tip.
So like these bowl games that have like, you're gonna have a MAC team play like the Sun Belt champion, like Stu mentioned. Like, is that just part of the like contract or the deal of those individual bowl games? Like where it's gonna be a representative from Conference USA versus a representative of the MAC, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it that way in the beginning, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like if you remember back in the day, it used to be the Rose Bowl was always Big Ten versus Pac-12. The Orange Bowl was always ACC versus Big East, I guess it was. Sugar Bowl was always SEC. Like, so, yeah, I don't know why it's still that way, especially with conference realignment and all this other stuff. It shouldn't still be that way. But yeah, he's exactly right. And then, I mean, I don't know, man. We just want to see the best games, the best matchups.
That's it.
And I mean, yeah, like why? To me, the other part of it too is, especially when you start looking at, the kind of the mid-tier bowl games like Outback Bowl, Gator Bowl. Like I swear there was a year when like Florida played Michigan like 3 years in a row in the bowl game. Like nobody cares about that. Like let somebody else get in. I don't care who it is, but like. And then you're going to keep throwing the Sun Belt champ in the New Orleans Bowl every single year. And eventually it's that bowl game becomes less meaningful to the players, to the fans, to the coach. It's like, God, we're back in the New Orleans Bowl. I've been in New Orleans 3 years in a row. Like, I don't need to keep going. Let me try something else. But then your other option is what? The GoDaddy Bowl. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you got all these other committees. Why not let the committees just select and seed the bbest, however many 50 teams, and put them in the bowl games.
Whatever bowl
just
they
however
play,
they happen to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun. And then you'd get matchups that you'd get random. You'd never see some of those matchups.
Joe Judkins in the chat has a good comment here. Let the conference champs of a group of 5 play other conference champs.
Well, my thought is let the conference champs be in the playoff.
Well, I agree with you, but that's never going to happen.
Any other sport league ever in the history of sporting.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild, man. I mean, it's wild. I'm sure the Romans didn't have a committee get together and, decide who was the fastest Olympian. They just watched them race.
They just had Caesar going.
You put a thumb up and they let Maximus kill him. I mean, anyways, that's the only voicemail we had right there, Jeff?
We had. Hit the hotline, though.
Yeah, definitely hit the hotline. 615-900-4286. Hottest take, question, prediction, solution. I mean, we're all about solutions here, realistic ones if you got them. But that's all we got for you guys tonight. Go back on YouTube, check out our previous shows. I mean, we've had probably 10 or 12 head coaches and athletic directors on just in the past couple of months. Those are all available on the YouTube channel, Group of 5 Guys. They're all available on Facebook and X as well. Make sure you follow us on all those platforms at Group of 5 Guys. We will see you probably next week with something, maybe the week after. We'll let you know.